Hi, so what are we talking about today? Well, last video we went over this little thing, positive schizopathy to autistic-like traits, right? We all exist somewhere on this sort of continuum, um, and I talked about what even is this continuum? How does it affect our lives? But now I'm going to go into more. If we land on one of these sides, what does that mean for how I should live my life? What is this information telling me, right? About how I should be interacting with others, who I should be interacting with, how I can improve the way I'm living. So, first of all, I want to say it's very important that when we are asking this question of, like, how should I improve? How should I change? How should I do all these things? You need to ask, who am I? Right? You need to understand who you are to some extent. You have to think about that question. Because if you just go changing the people you're around randomly, trying to see where you fit, you're just wandering aimlessly, right? You're just going from thing to thing. But if you have an idea, I think this is who I am, you have to have this notion. And that notion of who you are has to come from some self reflection, some, internal searching. And so I think this is a good indicator, right? Or a portion of that character we build of ourselves, right? The understanding we have of who we are, really. Because all of us are different people, obviously. We all have different upbringings, different genetic material, right? Some of us has more, muscle mass. Some of us can grow muscles easier. Some of us can have more neurons in different areas of our body, right? And so I think this is an interesting thing, right? We're all different, and so we need to reflect on ourselves. It's not like there's one way to get to have a better life. You have to understand, who am I, and then see where you can move forward from there, right? So, starting with this half, because this half is the one I'm far more familiar with, I'm going to talk about what this means for us improving our lives. What does this mean for us actually, doing anything with this sort of information? So, first of all, how do you figure out if you're on one of these sides? I should tackle that first, right? Well, you just want to think about your life, right? Think about who you are and what you're drawn to, right? What are the things that you find interesting, right? What are the character traits you have, the traits you have, rather, and which of these two do you feel like you align with most, right? Do you feel like you find more pleasure in focusing on specific tasks? Do you feel like you're good at a lot of different things, right? Do you feel like you sort of just run into things all the time? Maybe you are very cautious, right? And obviously these can be caused by other circumstances. I'm not saying that this is the only factor in our lives, right? We're not simply, this continue. This is not the one part of us. Where this is only a fraction of who we are. But when you think about it, trying to match up, who am I, right? What have I lived? What are the things I see when reflecting on my life objectively, right? Trying to meditate, in a sense, removing yourself, your mind sort of from yourself, and look at your life from a third person perspective to try to understand, where do I lie? And once we do that, and I feel like I'm pretty in the middle, or I feel like I'm more on this side, that side, then we can say, okay, well, how can we use this information to improve our lives? Well, simply put, actually, first, I'm going to get into this one idea. Who do we talk to? Who are the people we should be around, right? What's the point of conversation, all this stuff? And so I want to talk about socratic dialogue. What does this mean? What is this about? What it's about is removing and tempering, I should say, our perspective. We all see the world in a way, and it's always different from the other person standing next to us. It always is going to be different, because nobody can literally, first of all, can't nobody can literally be standing where you are, right? If that makes sense, right? Nobody can literally be who you are and see what you're seeing. Nobody can, at least from your exact perspective. And so I think this isn't like, not only physically are we seeing the world differently, but the associations we have with things are never going to be the same as other people, right? And so we're always seeing the world different ways, and that can be good, right? It means we bring new perspective, but what it also means is often we have an unclear, imperfect, I should say, grasp on reality. We all have this. We all have an imperfect grasp on what is real. We don't see the world as it quote unquote really is. We're not seeing it factually. No. We have this interpreter in our brain, right? Trying to make a story out of the world, fitting these things into a story. There's so much about how we intake information that's not actual, stimulus response. That's not exactly how it works. We have a complex system that tries to fit this information in, and so we don't see the world really. However, what Socrates discovered, right, is that you can combat this fairly, I don't want to say easily, but fairly effectively by just talking to other people, by sharing in other perspectives. And so this is what we're trying to do with Socratic dialogue. Now, this isn't just talking. Talking is just, you're spewing information. Talking doesn't mean you're listening, doesn't mean you're, having a conversation. It just means, just, But the Socratic dialogue is a way of not just talking, not just listening, but of continually finding a truth, moving closer and closer to what he calls the logos, right? The logos is this through line through all things. And so through conversation, through maybe right conversation, through Socratic conversation, I guess, would be the maybe most apt way to put it, you're able to then find a better grasp of this truth. And that is something that we inherently want, and what we should want, because it helps us make better, more rational decisions, more effective decisions, right? If we understand the world in a more real way, it helps us combat our biases, helps us combat the mistakes we constantly make, right? And like, the old quote from Shakespeare goes, right? The fault, dear Brutus, is not in our stars, but in ourselves. Not in the stars, rather, but in ourselves, right? So often there is in us a bias causing the problems in our lives. There is a misrepresentation in our in ourselves that's causing our issues. And so how do I tackle that? Well, I don't say the world sucks. I don't say, the world is wrong. No. I say, wait a minute. I think I'm not picking up this pattern that's happening. And I think I am, the culprit in these situations. Maybe I am doing something that's not, I don't want to say wrong, but something that's not optimal for my success, for the success of those I care about. And so I want to then improve. How do I improve? Well, you can't improve. Well, you can improve it alone through meditation, right? Through trying to remove your mind, your experience, your cognition from yourself by some meditative practices, which are very effective, and contemplative practices where you're moving into things. Those can be effective. But what also works, and what I think is the most readily available and easiest for us, right? Meditation takes years sometimes, but it can also be very difficult. But what's easy for us is just to talk to other people, but to do it in a way in where we're trying to really understand the logos. We're really trying to grasp this truth. And so, well, you're saying, Kyle, how does this relate? How does this relate to what we were talking about, this old thing, little bell curve, as the boys used to say in the old AP statistics class. Well, if you're on this side, this is telling me, I know. I think I'm biased in this way, where, and I'll talk about myself. I recognize this in myself often. I'm biased in a way in which the ideas I have are very salient. They're very real to me. I'm very able to picture them in reality. And so I just do them, right? Because things are more salient to me, things feel more real. I just do stuff, right? So I come up with an idea, and I just do it, you know? And this can cause problems in my life. It means I miss out on things. It means I push myself too hard. It means I do too much, all this stuff. And so I recognize this bias within me, and it's sort of difficult it's very difficult, I should say, to consciously combat it. Like, to combat it individually on my own, I need to constantly be thinking, I think this is too aggressive. What should I stop? Should I not do this? However, if through conversation, socratic conversation. Now that's a big term, but it really just means talking by trying to find what is really true, right? Talking in a way, speaking in a way that's just trying to grasp what's really real, and trying to uncover my own bias, my own, misinterpretation of the world. But so I'm more this side, and if I have a conversation with somebody more this side, I might disagree with what they're saying. But when they say, Kai, what are you doing this for? It helps me then say, oh, wait, let's talk about this. Why am I doing this? Would you do this? Right? Would you do this many things? Would you, And then I'm like, I see. The truth, the real way, the optimal way is not what I'm doing all of everything. No. And it's not maybe what they would perceive or prescribe for this situation, which would be, sitting at home. It's actually something in between. And so only through, though, exposure to these different ideas do I get to understand really what the true way is, what the better way of life for me is. And so I have to engage with people, not only with opposite views in this sense, right? But with other views in almost every sense, right? But what you need to recognize too is I need to go into this conversation, with a Socratic idea in mind. And also, if this other person doesn't have this idea, it can become, I would say, less fruitful for you. And so you need to find people in your life and around you who are willing to talk to you in a way which is kind, which is loving, right? Love not in a sexual or a romantic way, but more a platonic love, a love that recognizes the reality, the truth, the reality that you exist, right? Often we think of love as like this ethereal thing, but love is, it is ethereal, truly, but it's a reciprocal revealing of yourself, and the other person to you, right? And so you need to find these people who you can reveal something of yourself, right? Oh, this way I think. They reveal something of themselves reciprocally, and you both then get to share in the fruit of this labor, the fruit of this love, the fruit of this reciprocal sharing. And you both get to come closer to the logos, right? To what right? What is the through line? What is the truth of this? What is the reality of this? What's real here? What's the right choice? What are the patterns in this world? And so we need to recognize in ourselves our own biases, our own parts of this little graph we're on. And then we need to try to find people, not who are, if I'm here, I don't need people always who are here, right? That's not how it would work. It can be helpful sometimes too, but you want to find people who you can truly share with, who are respectful for you, who can truly have these sort of dialogues with, and yet who also have differing perspectives, right? people who also can temper your view. Someone who loves you in the way in which they are not revealing what you want to see in them. They're revealing rather their true self. And you are revealing your true self. So it's not as if they're doing something for you and I'm doing something for them. No. You're doing something together with each other, in which you're both revealing your the same self, right? Your truest self. Irrelevant if the fact of they like it, independent of the fact that this is what they believe, right? If I love somebody, I'm not going to tell them what I think they want to believe. No, I'm going to reveal my truth. What do I really think? Because that's the most respectful, that's the most loving thing I can do. Because it's guiding us both to a better understanding of the world, right? And we also need to go into this knowing, well, I know I'm not 100% right. I know I'm not right. You have to come to grips with this fact that the things we think are so real for us sometimes aren't, and that's okay, right? We got to realize that sometimes the patterns we think we see in the world are figments of our imagination, or not as developed as they could be. And I think that's the thought too, right? It's not I'm wrong. It's no, I'm just not as developed as I can be. I don't have this extra data point, right? Let's see. You got a graph like this, right? You're thinking, oh, I think the line goes through, maybe right through there. But then what you don't realize is these other data points that exist, right, which you reveal through conversation, reveal through other people's perspectives, are all up here. And suddenly, the way I've been acting, the pattern I think I see in the world, the thing I've been basing my actions on, it's not that this is wrong. It's just that this is less right, than something like this or something like this, right? It's less correct. But then, who's to say which one of these is right? I mean, you can't say one's objectively, oh, this is the best ever, right? But what we want to try to do is always just to try to add a few more data points. Give me more information about where this line goes. So I know, it's not going this way. I know it's not this. I know it's not going this way, right? I know it's somewhere in this area. It's somewhere in here. And so I can try to follow it, continuing to add more data points. And you can only do that through conversation with people who don't already have the data points you have. You got all your data points, for the most part. And you can try to reveal more through, self-understanding, through meditation, through contemplation. But the most effective, the fastest, the easiest way to get more information is just to talk to other people in an open-minded, socratic way. And that's what I implore all of you to do. If you want to improve your life, if you want to improve your grip on reality, your grip and understanding of what's really happening around us and around you. Whew. That was sort of a lot. I didn't sort of really talk about this as much as I wanted to. So I might not, I think, because I think I don't have as much to say. This is, I think, more important. So no matter what side you're on, you really want to focus and take this into account and try to find other people with differing opinions. So again, you get more data points and you get a truer line through. Well, I think that does it for this video. Thank you guys so much. I think next week I will have a far better setup, and hopefully, I'll be more beautiful next time. You'll be like, oh, Lord, look at this guy. All right. Thank you so much. Please, again, comment. Tell me what you think. I think that's yeah, it's always interesting for me. Very interesting for me. So, thank you. Fuck.